Good evening to those of you who are the hardy souls that come to our community meeting. Hello to others who are watching a taped replay. We're here tonight, or whenever you look at it, to do a community meeting on the fiscal year 13, fiscal year 14 operating budget for James City County. As you know, my proposed budget has been released, and it also does not contain a tax increase. And that is something we hope is very good news in light of what's being faced by many other jurisdictions around the Commonwealth. Just in our area, I know the city of Williamsburg as well as York County have either done or are considering a tax increase. So the question is really, how did we do it? How did we get positioned for that so that it would work out the way it has for us this year? And it started several years ago. The county, before I came, I think it was really in 08, it started as the economy was falling, adjusting two things, both the size of the workforce as well as the county spending, and managed to reduce both. Our workforce is now down about 10%. We've not really started to grow it back. And our spending dropped an awful lot in that time as well. In addition to that, in fiscal year 11 and 12, we consciously saved or put aside some funds that we had either saved in the operating budget or in a lot of instances were one-time funds because we knew we were going to have a very challenging biennial budget for the cycle we're in right now. So we specifically set that aside with the idea that we'd be able to use it as a shock absorber to help cushion what we knew was going to be a hit in our revenues in this biennium that we're in right now. So that was one of the things we did. We actually did apply in this year's budget less than half of the money we set aside. So we still have the other half to apply in the second year of the biennium, at which point we hope to be through the worst of the economic crisis. As I said before, we cut spending. We also had some new revenue growth this year, which helped us a little bit. But you combine those things, we had adequate resources to pretty much keep the county operating as people have seen it or expected to, and provide for some modest increase to some of the services that we offer. The budget itself is really important thing to recognize is due in large part to the leadership from the Board of Supervisors. And I feel very strongly that it's a real testament to the employees that you have working for you in the county. Our employees, worked extremely hard over this very challenging period, but they're also very careful stewards of the resources that were entrusted to them. So they spent wisely, they saved where they could, they did all of the right things to help get us to where we are today. So you should be very proud as county residents that you have such a responsive and such an effective workforce that works for you. What I'm showing you now is a graph that illustrates how our spending has actually progressed over the years, and we show it from 2000 up to 2014, the end of this biennium. You'll notice the chart is adjusted for inflation, and where we find ourselves right now through the end of this fiscal year 13-14 biennium is that we will be the lowest in per capita spending at any time that we've been in this 21st century. You notice that it peaked around 08, and that's when the county started taking some of the preventative measures I described just a moment ago. The next chart I wanted to look at just quickly, this is just the gross reflection of the gross dollars that have been spent by the county. It starts at 08 on the far left of the chart and progresses through our projection for 14. And even with some growth in the budget over the last couple of years, you'll notice that it's still below 2009 spending levels. The next slide is just the actual budget numbers. You can see they're rounded for the chart purposes, but that's the actual expenditures we're anticipating. And next slide. What is really, you're going to really see in the budget in terms of overview is that, as I said, there's no change in taxes. We're going to maintain the current tax rate of 77 cents. That was a challenge, but again, that's because we prepared for it. In this year, our residential real property values will drop by 5.67%. That's as a result of the property reassessment we just did in the county. And probably the largest single driver that we have in this biennial period is what happened with us with the Virginia retirement system. And the lion's share of the increase in spending from this year to next is associated with complying with those mandates. And I'll go through that in a little bit as we get to that point. Next one, Tara. This pie chart just illustrates in gross terms where we derive our principal sources of revenue, and it's probably no surprise to anybody. About half of it is from real estate taxes. The other two large pieces are personal property and then sales, meals, and lodging, and then there's a whole variety of other smaller contributors to make up what is essentially a $165 million budget. In our general fund, we noticed, as I said, the real estate has revenues have declined. It actually went down about $2.8 million. And this is actually better than we had hoped for. We were expecting a much more severe impact, and fortunately did not happen. What we will do in this budget is also propose a couple of fee increases to help make ends meet. One is an increase in the ALS or BLS fee, and for those who don't know what that is, that's advanced life support and basic life support. It's principally the ambulance transport cost that we currently charge folks. That'll be going up about $75 per the different categories that we have, and it will keep pace with what the city of Williamsburg has proposed. And that's important because we do a lot of cross transports between the city, and we transport their residents, they transport ours, and this just helps reduce confusion as well as generating a little revenue. It's about a $230,000 increase in revenue as a result of that. And the other thing we have is, you see on there too, there's a proposed security check fee. Right now we provide a service by our police department for vacation, people on vacation. They'll come and check your home at no cost. This is starting to increase in terms of its quantity. And we wanted to be sure that we don't get this so overused or so loved that we take our police department from doing the things that we'd like them to do as a higher priority around the community in terms of responding to crimes or dealing with other issues in the community. We're also anticipating an increase in delinquent tax collection. I'll talk about that in a moment. That's another $319,000. And that's really all you see in terms of new revenue sources or fees in the general fund for this 2-year period. Also in the general fund, you had, or we noticed some positive trends in some of the revenue sources that we traditionally had. See the ones listed: personal property, sales, meals, and lodging. All of those are expected to be up this year, more than we had originally hoped or projected. Personal property alone is going up close to $1 million, and the other three are going up probably another $400,000 or so. And again, as I said earlier, that really accounts for some of the new revenue we saw this year. The good news, really, I think, is that for us is that we're starting to see positive trends that look like they're going to be sustained going forward. Obviously, I have to keep a close eye on it, but it's certainly better news than worse at this point, and we're pleased about that. So as a citizen, what does it mean to you? And you'll see here, if you own a home in the community and it's valued at $300,000, in this budget, because the tax rate remains static, your actual property tax bill should decrease around $131. Now, I would mention that 5% decrease is an average, so you have some that went up more and some that went up less. So that's just a typical kind of a home at the average rate. As I said, the ALS and BLS fees we don't expect to be very impactful because most insurance plans pay that cost. And we have what's called a soft billing, so that if you are not able to pay, we're not going to pursue you with creditors. We settle for what we get from the insurance companies, and that's worked out well for us. You'll also see no decrease in services, and a few areas where we expect some modest increases or improvements to the services that are offered to the community. As we look to the spending side now, in some more detail, you'll see that, again, it should be no surprise, our school division is about 46% of our operating budget, and then the county operating departments are another 31%, and then you see the rest is divided between capital and outside agencies. Go to the next chart. You see on the next chart the actual numbers as they're presented for fiscal year 13 versus 12. you see overall, the bottom line, our budget is proposed to go up by 1.1% from fiscal year 12 to fiscal year 13. What you'll see in the budget, very importantly, is that we are proposing to fully fund the request made by the school division. The way that works, for those who are not familiar with it, is that the school board and the school administrative staff work through their budget and make a request of both the city and the county. In both cases, the city and the county fund on a bottom line basis. That is, they'll ask for a pot of money and we'll either give it to them or not. We do not direct where they use it or to what programs they apply it. That is left to the elected school board, and we think normally they do a pretty good job of it, and this year they did a very good job in their budget submission. I think they took a very hard, very responsible look at their expenses and came up with a request we were pleased to be able to fund. As I mentioned a few moments ago, the VRS mandated changes that the state has imposed on us this year drive most of the costs in our budget. And there's a couple of things that make that happen. Our rate went up first, just the amount we have to pay for into the system, not only for the general fund employees of the county, but also, and probably more so, in the school division. Theirs went up rather substantially, and that was not expected, but we were able to cope with it. In the VRS system, one of the changes has been mandated as well, is that the county employees, all of them now, will be paying 5% toward the Virginia retirement system cost. Right now, that cost is paid by the county. We will be proposing to offset that cost with a 5.7% increase in salary, so that our employees' wages do not go down. They have not had a raise since, I think it was 2008, so that was an important recommendation to make. Beyond the VRS mandated costs that we have to include in this budget and have, we are also enhancing a couple of services, and we're using one of the new revenue sources, the delinquent tax collection, as the source for that. One would be a position in the treasurer's office actually to do that work. The taxes we need to be collected by a person, and so that will be the person. But we're also looking to add a 2-person crew to our maintenance staff so that we can do a better job maintaining some of our stormwater facilities, but probably more important to citizens, some of the trails that we hope you enjoy in the parks and the public grounds that we have. We keep accumulating more, and we're falling behind on that. We want to make sure that it maintains in good shape and looking good for our citizenry to enjoy. We're also adding some funds to provide for a higher level of maintenance on our principal roadway corridor medians. We've had many calls and complaints over the years that VDOT, who currently does that all by themselves, doesn't really spend enough time or money on it. The grass does get very high, they look a little shabby, and we think for a tourism community, it's very important that we look better, and I think that's important to our citizens in general. So you'll see that as well. On the capital side, you'll see a number of things in this year's budget that we're very happy to be able to offer up as the proposal. One of our high priorities has been to rebuild the station number 1 that's in Toano. This is the station that is staffed by our volunteer fire department. This is a department that has worked for years for us and done just a fabulous job. We're very, very proud of them. They provide us a wonderful service, and we think it's our privilege to be able to give them the resources, in this case a building, the tools to do the job that they allow them to keep doing and serving the community. We'll also be investing in some fire equipment, 2 fire pumpers and an ambulance. That's going to cost about $1.5 million. On the school side, we'll be doing a number of improvements to school HVAC. That's the heating and cooling system in the schools. About $11 million will be spent on that. That will help us long term because it helps build energy efficiencies into the building, and we've seen that already with the work we've done. This will continue it. And we're also proposing to complete a Toano Middle School refurbishment at just over $4 million. One of the brand new things, we hope a fun thing that we're offering the community, is a brand new synthetic ice rink, which we propose to locate at Newtown over the holiday season, so that for a few months in the year, our residents and any visitors would be able to come down and enjoy this synthetic ice. This thing, once it's in place, we hope is fun. It adds an attraction to Newtown, an attraction to the community. And it should be pretty much self-supporting after the first capital costs are paid. The annual operating expenses we expect to be offset by fees and sponsorships that we are confident we'll be able to line up. So it shouldn't be an expense long term. It should pay for itself relatively quickly. So we hope that's enjoyed. One of the other areas that we have in the budget, of course, too, is the James City Service Authority. And for those who don't know, that's our water and sewer division. That's basically what they do. There'll be no proposed increase in the water rate, and the sewer rate is proposed right now to go from $2.80 to $3.22 per 1,000 gallons in a quarter. For a typical customer, average customer, it's about $7.50 per quarter, and over a year, that's $30. The reason for this is the first time we've had a rate increase in a long time, is that we are being compelled to do a pretty extensive amount of capital improvements to our system as a result of something that's called a consent decree with the State Department of Environmental Quality, as well as with the federal EPA. That will drive capital expenditures of the JCSA for years to come, as it will regionally. Every jurisdiction will be affected by that, as will all of the customers of the Regional Sanitation District, the HRSD. In fiscal year 14, you largely see the same budget. There's only a few changes. There are some modest increases in revenue. I'm recommending a civilian police position. This is to help free up some of the administrative time that's now performed by officers, so they can be officers as opposed to doing administrative functions. And again, importantly to the county employees, is we're trying to set aside funds for a salary increase. Again, they've not had one in a long time. We think it's well-deserved, and this is the year that we think you can make it happen. The budget schedule, as you go forward, there is an official public hearing on the budget at the Tuesday, April 24th Board of Supervisors meeting. It's at 7 o'clock at the county complex on Mounts Bay Road. The supervisors will be having 3 separate budget work sessions where they'll go through the details of the budget and ask and answer any questions that they have. What they do in this time period is to take the budget I proposed and shape it so that, one, they like it, 2, it represents their specific concerns and interests. And then that's an important thing for the supervisors to do, is make sure it's what they want. So you see those work sessions on Tuesday, April 24th. That's at 4 p.m. These are all at the work session room in the Building F in the county complex. Monday, April 30th at 6, and then Wednesday, May 2nd at 4. The budget is right now scheduled to be voted upon by the Board of Supervisors at their Tuesday, May 8th meeting at 7 o'clock. And you're certainly welcome to come and see any of these. All of the meetings that are up here will be televised. You can watch them live or on demand afterwards, as you can this short presentation.